Good evening, Unity on the Bay. Trusting everybody is well and recuperated from their Thanksgiving feast. And not only in terms of the food that you ate, but also in terms of the blessings that you counted, which is something that's not limited, as you know, to one day a year. But it's a wonderful way to live every day of our lives in this perpetual state of Thanksgiving. There's always so much to be grateful for. I'm glad you're here with us again tonight, Monday evening, 6 p.m. It's the time for shelf discovery. And I did a little exploring of my bookshelf behind me, which, as you know, if you're familiar with the program, that's where we uncover the various gems of writing that have most touched my life, my spiritual growth. If you're with us this evening, please remember this is an interactive program, and I welcome your participation in the chat, starting with letting me know you're here, because I really don't know you're here unless you put something in the chat to say hello. And we're not going to rush into the book tonight. Hi, Geeta. Mwah! Love you. Hi, Nancy. It's so good to see you the other day, and grateful for your presence here tonight. We're going to be exploring some old-fashioned unity. You know, I like that within unity, we not only give license, but we actually give encouragement to the study of different religious persuasions and different spiritual tools. It really makes, I think, the unity work rather unique, because we're not coming at you with a slate of prescriptions and answers to the questions of life that we require you to digest, to accept, and to live from. We say, you know, our nature is to be exploratory. And that's what we do in Unity. We explore. That's what our founders did so many years ago. You know, they ultimately resonated around the teachings of Jesus Christ and what is sometimes referred to as the red letter religion. That is not so much the religion about Jesus Christ, but the religion of Jesus Christ, how he actually lived. And so the Fillmores were primarily persuaded by the teachings of Jesus, but they also recognized that what Jesus was doing was actually living in integrity to the best of his ability with universal spiritual law. And you find that universal spiritual law in all the great religious persuasions of the world. So thanks again for being with us. We're about to get started into our book for this evening. And if you are present tonight, please remember this is an interactive program. I welcome very much your perspectives, whether they agree with mine or whether they agree with Unity's or not, because we are spiritual explorers. We're spiritual pioneers. And that means that it's important for us to support each other in finding the tools that work most effectively for each one of us. Hey, Pam, nice to have you here. I'm glad you joined us. And if you are here, let me know. Just throw something into the chat. And then as we get into the material tonight, let's dive into it together. This is it's not a new book, but it's relatively new given a lot of the spiritual classics that are on my bookshelf. This book is called The 5 Principles. I'm trying to get it in the camera here. The 5 Principles by Unity Minister Ellen Debenport. And it's subtitled, hi, Aaron Moore. Love you, my friend, and glad you're here. It's subtitled A Guide to Practical Spirituality. This was very important to Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of the Unity movement. They believed that religion needed to be practical, and that if it wasn't set up to work in your life, there was no reason for it. And Juan Del Hierro, hello, my friend. Nice to have you here. You'll like this tonight. We're doing The 5 Principles by Ellen Debenport. I mean, we're definitely not going to get through the whole book. That's why I titled it Part 1, because you could take any one of these 5 basic unity principles and spend a lifetime absorbing it, living from it. And it's been my experience that these principles grow and expand with us, my friends. Ellen Debenport says in the pages of this book that she wishes everybody, every human being, would re-examine their concept of God at least once every decade, just to see if it still works for them, to see if it's still applicable for them. And I say that even those of us who consider ourselves to be staunch Unity students need to do the same, because life will naturally allow our understanding of God and spiritual principle to expand over time. And it's important that we check in with ourselves to say, who am I today in my spiritual awakening, and what is most applicable to me? And what I've found in my own life, it's almost like, and I actually believe this is true, like there's sort of a divine curriculum that puts me in the right place at the right time to receive that which I need to receive. Now, you may or may not know, I was sort of planted in Unity because my mother was a devout Unity student. Not so much my dad, because he was an Oral Roberts fan and really into fundamentalist Christianity. But my mother was a Unity student, so I grew up with this. But even so, I find that my ideas, my understandings, and my definitions of God, of life, of the divine, are constantly in a state of change, constantly expanding. And I believe that's in part because the universe is infinite in nature, and thus its creator must be infinite in nature as well. Being infinite in nature means that there's always going to be another level or layer, a deeper understanding, a greater awareness that's available to me. So I really like this book. If you don't know, the 5 principles were introduced to our Unity movement by the great-granddaughter of our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And this was back in the 1980s. I remember because I was working at Unity Village, and Connie was my boss, Connie Fillmore, the great-granddaughter. And I remember when she came up with these. And right away, we all knew she had captured something that a lot of people could benefit from. So we took the simple 5 principles as she wrote them. We turned them into a booklet that is still available today. I believe it's called Keys to the Kingdom. But I also really like that Ellen Debenport put these in a very contemporary vernacular. And I think it was much needed, if not a little bit overdue. We're going to start tonight with principle number 1. And again, let's enter into this exploration with a questioning mind as we move through the pages of this book. Even though we may think we've heard these 5 principles 100 times, and certainly I have, let's really try to take them in at a different level tonight, if you're open to that. The first principle is God is absolute good, everywhere present. Absolute good. In Unity, we utilize that terminology, absolute versus relative. Absolute is the spiritual dimension of life, in which all things are absolutely the way they are. And whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, there's an absolute realm. There's also this relative realm, which you might consider to be duality, where there appears to be these 2 contradictory forces working against each other, and working sometimes against us as well. In Unity, this number 1 principle, and I've often said, if you get this first principle, you really have them all. God is absolute good, everywhere present. Let's see what she has to say about this. To find it right here. Here we go. Ellen Debenport. Principle 1 affirms that God is all there is. God is omnipotent, all-powerful, omniscient, all-knowing, and omnipresent, everywhere present. Not all-powerful, but all-power. Not all-knowing, but all-knowledge, and present everywhere. God is the stars, the rocks, the animals, the people. God is the love, the creativity, the wisdom that human beings express. All that we are and have is God, and we can never be separate from that universal power. How does that set with you, even the longtime Unity students? Do you really believe? Do you really know with all of your being that that statement is true? As I was preparing for tonight's broadcast, I was thinking about that. Do I really believe it's true? And I think to the very best of my ability, I do. That doesn't mean I'm always living in accordance with it. Doesn't mean I'm always seeing this one presence, this one power in everybody and everything. But at the core of my being, it's one reason why I am so grateful that I was raised in unity. At the core of my being, I believe it. In fact, I find it hard to believe in two powers. I find it hard to believe in the devil. I find it hard to believe in evil. I have good friends who, when I tell them that we adhere to this number one principle, God is absolute good everywhere present, they just shake their heads and look at me like I've fallen into a realm of delusion, let alone to be a representative of a philosophy that promotes this. It's non-duality, and it's the understanding, which I believe deeply in my heart, that there's only one infinite consciousness or presence at work here. What do you think about that? Do you agree with it? And if you do agree with it, how do you reconcile the experiences that take place on this planet amidst the presence of the human family? How do you reconcile that with this understanding that there's only one presence? It's God, it's absolute good, and it is everywhere. I'm interested in how you respond to that when you maybe are in a conversation with someone. They say, "What do you believe?" Well, I believe in unity. What's that all about? Well, the number one principle is God is all there is. There's nothing else going on here. And when you communicate that, what's your level of faith and belief in it? And how do you respond when people maybe do shake their heads at you and say, it's so apparent that there's something else going on here, because look at the presence of evil in the world. Look at the presence of negativity. And of course, we know in unity and through the, I see Gita's still with us, through the law of attraction, that whatever we believe in, whatever we put our focus and our attention on, is going to increase, and our belief is going to strengthen through it. And it's going to become an experience in our reality. And that's the way that I explain this. I say, I believe it's true. God is absolute good everywhere present. I also understand that it does not appear that way to me as I'm walking through my day-to-day life experience. And my premise is that we have, out of our own free will, chosen to accept certain ideas, such as evil, such as the devil, such as true misfortune. We've accepted them as being real, and we've invested them with our belief, and it begins to form before us a lens through which we perceive this absolute or ultimate reality. The one presence, the one power of God is not visible to us and is not perhaps experienced by us because we've accepted erroneous beliefs. And by our endorsement of those erroneous beliefs, by virtue of our faith and belief in them, they have created this lens, which it sort of reminds me of when Jesus was saying, don't go pluck the, I forget exactly what the verbiage is, but don't go plucking the speck of dust out of your brother's eye while all the time there's this great log in your own. The log, I believe, that he was speaking of was our inability to perceive spiritual reality and truth because of erroneous ideas that we've invested in. And that investment has allowed them to become our experience. So there's what's going on, which is absolute good everywhere present. And then there is our experience of what's going on, which is dictated by the thoughts that we have not just entertained, but really welcomed into our conscious awareness and supported through our belief. Thank you, Gita, for your response. Yes, I do believe, even in times of challenge, some part of me knows it. Yeah. Same here. Even through the greatest challenges my life has brought me, there's a part of me that has really never varied from believing, regardless of this experience. And here we're talking about experience, which is the result of the lens through which we are seeing the kingdom of God, the absolute presence and power of God. Let's see what Gita has to say here. Oh, pardon me, Nancy. I have asked that question myself in times of distress. A Course in Miracles has helped me. Yeah, A Course in Miracles, really is, from my perspective, the same stream of consciousness. There are those who would disagree with me, but that's what I've found to be the case. There's nothing I have found in Course in Miracles that is out of alignment with the universal spiritual principles taught by Jesus and promoted by the Fillmores and the Unity movement. I think they're companions, and they're different expressions. See, that's the thing about this universal spiritual law, is that it's going to be understood by different individuals in different ways. Just like everything in life, no two people see or experience the same thing quite the same. And so it is with spiritual principle. There are different means and methods through which universal spiritual principle is communicated. And this goes, like from my dad being a fundamentalist Christian, it still worked for him. It worked for him. It was an understanding of universal spiritual law that he could accept for himself. And far be it from me to put a judgment on that, but just to say, to each their own. We're all charged with finding our own way, which may seem a little overwhelming, but actually it's pretty exciting, because that means no one else is going to discover spiritual reality and truth quite the same as we have. Okay, Gita, within the world context, I understand that it is here to serve a purpose. Bad is a man-made word, so from our human perspective, we might perceive it a bad, but I choose to see it through the eyes of God, trusting, knowing it serves us somehow, even if I don't know. Absolutely, Gita. We might perceive it. And that's what I'm talking about here. The perception, the lens. And it can become quite distorted based on what we're putting our confidence and faith in. Aaron, thank you, Aaron. I agree, absolutely. I can get a bit wordy when explaining this. Yeah, I don't ever have that problem, Aaron. That's all I do for a living, is talk about this. I wrote a statement the other day. Aaron says, evil and the devil does not exist, yet we humans can have those experiences. Yes, we have this ability to make it up as we go along, and we believe what we make up. Thank you, Aaron. Such wisdom in that. Hi, CJ. Such wisdom in that. Someone once, it was my mother that used to say, you'll believe in a devil as long as you need one. You need a scapegoat. You need something to be victimized by. There does come a point, I believe, where we can say to ourselves, I don't need this anymore. I've expanded beyond it. CJ, according to ACIM, we are living a dream. Duality occurs in the illusion. Yes, thank you. And that is Course in Miracles, and that is many contemporary and even some long-standing perspectives from spiritual authors and teachers. It's not exclusive to ACIM. It's not exclusive to Unity. This Unity doesn't actually proclaim that we are living in a dream, but it does recognize our ability to create false phantom figures based on our imagination prompted in the wrong direction. So it becomes very important, and we all know this in Unity, to be mindful of what it is that we're thinking about, the response of our feeling nature to the thoughts that we're holding, and to realize we do have the ability to make a choice as to what we're going to invest our attention, our energy, and our belief in. And that includes every moment, even when we are moving, as Nancy said earlier, through those challenging experiences. Or maybe it was Gita. Now I've lost track of the chat stream here. But at any rate, let's get back to a little bit more of Ellen here, when she goes on to say, Yes, but what about evil? So here we are. God is absolute good everywhere present. And she says, yes, but what about evil? The principle of oneness, she says, that we are in God and God is in us, that we are one with each other and with all the universe, may be lovely and inspiring on the surface, but it is difficult to describe and even more difficult to live. Furthermore, she says, in my experience, people are often shocked by the ramifications of a world where everything, absolutely everything, is the divine. Back here. Just 1 second, I'm catching up with the chat. Pam, thank you. If you remember, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. So the agreement that was made before we descended is out of our realm of understanding on earth. Thank you, Pam, because I find that reassuring. Sometimes I stretch so hard to try to understand what in this human realm may not be understandable. It's beyond understanding at this particular level of experience. And that's okay, because we have this wonderful tool called trust, that when we believe in something so much, when we know that it's true and it resonates, that's the key. Does it resonate in the heart? And that's what I love about this. God is absolute good everywhere present. There's just something about this principle of oneness that resonates so deeply in me that I can't ignore it. But I also can't pretend to understand it. I can trust in it. And I trust in it because of the level of resonance that it brings to my heart. Our thoughts are prayers. Thank you, Nancy. So true. Our thoughts are our solicitations to the universe to bring forth that which, I was going to say that which we desire, perhaps, but that which we're thinking about for sure. Aaron, Neil Donald Walsh, thank you all. You're really active tonight, and I appreciate it. Neil Donald Walsh in Conversations with God said Hitler went to heaven. I won't go into the explanation, but I found it acceptable. Well, thank you, Aaron. I find it acceptable too, because I believe that how we interpret individuals on this plane of existence is largely determined by the judgments, no matter how justified those judgments may be. And I believe that in the absolute realm, the realm of heaven, if you will, those judgments don't hold up. It's not a realm of judgment. It's a realm of acceptance and love and understanding, and also really recognizing the presence of the divine in everybody. But that's a big one, Aaron. And inevitably, when I get into this subject on a deeper level in a conversation, that will come up. The Holocaust, Hitler. Let's see, Pam. Yes, and we all came here to learn and grow and heal. We are natural born students of life. We are engaged in an experience of growth that's inevitable, and that growth does bring healing. So, God, you're all really we're in sync tonight, and have fun. Thank you, Nancy. That is very important. We can have fun in the process. Religion, spirituality doesn't have to be so serious. I tend to make it that way most of the time, but it doesn't have to be. And CJ, but is this really God's world? No way could a loving God create this. Well, again, what are we looking at? Are we looking through, thank you, CJ, are we looking through our lens, our perceptions, and our judgment? If so, we will see a world that has very little of the divine in it. Or are we seeing with what in unity we might refer to as Christed vision, which sees through, as Jesus told us, it sees, judge not by appearances. It doesn't judge by appearances. It looks beyond appearances. And we have that ability to look beyond appearances, to see the true reality. I do believe, CJ, from an ACIM perspective, it would be valid to say we have made up this world. And I know from a course perspective, God really doesn't even know much about what's going on here, has created the activity of the Holy Spirit to sort of serve as the intermediary. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that, but I would say we've had a lot more to do with making our experience of this world than quote unquote God has. And that one of our charges here is to look beyond the level of appearances. And the appearances are being dictated by the erroneous thinking that we're holding on to, the beliefs that we are investing in. Let's go on. I got completely sidetracked from Ellen's work. Furthermore, in my experience, she said, people are often shocked by the ramifications of a world where everything, absolutely everything, is the divine. The most common question is this: if God is good and God is all there is, how can evil exist in the world? Such questions are a recurring theme when studying the 5 principles. If humans are divine expressions of God, how come they behave so badly? If we are the creators of our own experience, why would we ever create unpleasantness? And she says, no single answer suffices. Indeed, humans have been trying to understand why bad things happen to good people since they first became conscious of themselves. The Christian answer is that humans are born sinful. It contradicts basic unity principle, which states that we are divine expressions of God and inherently good. We are not born in original sin. We are born in original blessing. Now, what we do with that original blessing is another story. Gita says we all agreed to all of this duality before we came here, before our birth, from our broader perspective of pureness, untainted by the humanness. Yeah, we did all agree to come here. I believe. And again, you may believe it, you may not, but I do believe we signed up for the excursion, the human adventure, and here we are. But I actually think it's exciting. I actually think it's challenging, yes, but it's exciting. Back again to that term, spiritual pioneers. Some people use the term spiritual warriors. I try not to use any terminology that is related to war or antagonism or fighting. So I call us spiritual pioneers. We're on the exploration of a lifetime, a single lifetime, but perhaps more to follow and perhaps more have preceded it. At any rate, that's a little bit of sticking our toe in the water of the number 1 unity principle. God is absolute good everywhere present. Weigh that out over the next few days and really check in. I mean, it sounds lovely. God is absolute good everywhere present. The real question is, do you believe it? Oh, you're a friend of Kevin's. Awesome, CJ. I'm glad you're here. You're in the midst of a master there when it comes to ACIM. I'm sure you're already aware of that. And by the way, he's doing really well in Palo Alto. He's been a little off the grid, just making the adjustment to moving from one coast to the other, but all is well there with him. And all is well with you guys tonight. Excuse me, you ladies and gentlemen, you wonderful people. Thanks for being a part of this experience. I always enjoy these 30 minutes with you or so on a Monday evening and really appreciate all of the participation that we have had here, and hope you'll join me again next Monday night for another exciting episode of Shelf Discovery. I love you all so much. Love to you, Nancy. Love to you, Pam. Love you, Gita. Have a beautiful evening. My God, the weather is so beautiful out there. It has been all day. We are blessed, and I'm blessed to have each of you in my life. Have a wonderful evening, and God bless everybody.